Enterprises face challenges on multiple fronts with new demands on data center infrastructure. Emerging workloads born of today's generative AI gold rush are computationally intensive and tax the limits of legacy hardware and software. To meet these requirements, modern data centers must undergo a rapid transformation. Subsequently, they require high availability to address the nonstop operational needs of organizations of all sizes. Scalability and power efficiency are also critical considerations to meet growing workload and distributed application demands. And hardened security must be tightly woven into the overall connectivity stack to ensure resiliency and efficacy. Data processing units that integrate into the underlying IT and OT infrastructure address all of these needs in a consolidated piece of silicon. I'm Will Townsend, and I lead the networking and security practices for my firm, Moor Insights and Strategy. And in this discussion with AMD, we hope to shed some light on the value of DPUs and how AMD Pensando is differentiating itself in the market. Soni, it's so great to talk to you today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, I thought that before we jump into the conversation, it would be interesting to hear about Pensando's journey. I understand you're a founder. John Chambers was involved with the company as well. So maybe spend a little bit of time there.
Sure. The company got founded in 2017. We had the same group that we were at Cisco, Mario, Luca, Prem, myself, the MPLS team that played a key function earlier on in the company. Prem was our CEO along with myself as his business partner. And we were both operating and running the company, joined by Randy Pond to take over all of operations, and of course, John Chambers, who was our chairman of the board, and very actively involved. The company really started to look at how do cloud customers embrace innovation at such a fast pace, and how do they accommodate for architectures. And the one leading the pack at that time was Amazon with their Nitro technology, which they had brought about into the AWS infrastructure around 2014 with the acquisition of Annapurna. And we saw how fast the evolution of the data centers occurred and the speed at which cloud vendors like Amazon were able to move with the times and scale and deliver security and a variety of services across the infrastructure on the cloud. We were highly motivated by the velocity factor and the pace of innovation that was occurring in the cloud customer base. And we embarked on this journey to deliver a domain-specific architecture called DPUs. Which had the ability to do packet processing and move things at very high speed and optimize really to help customers build highly programmable environments where you could run multiple services simultaneously on a consolidated data processing unit. And to deliver it with immense security and deliver it with a lot of flexibility, allowing the customer to utilize these resources in a much more effective manner and offload what was running on general processors and speed that up, keeping pace with the networking speeds that were occurring. And that really became our mantra. But we were looking at the problem from a systems perspective. And therefore, more than 2/3 of Pensando's team was the software team. So while we were thinking architecturally to have the silicon as the baseline, as a necessary condition, and an architecture that would be evolutionary for generation after generation evolution, so multi-generation architectures, the real power came about in our ability to harness that very powerful architecture with a lot of programmable software. And we chose P4 as that language because we already saw companies like Google and Stanford really making major inroads in that P4 environment. And today we have an extremely comprehensive suite of offerings that are running and are powering some of the largest clouds around the globe in a short 7 years from where we came from. Right. And 2 years ago, actually this month, we were acquired by AMD. So it's been our journey concluded 5 years into the making of the company with lots of customers in production And
Right.
then the AMD journey has only helped us execute on a more global, on a much more bigger and a much more global platform. And
Yeah.
now we are busy trying to also not just look at the DPU evolution, but also represent all network innovations within AMD, including AI networking, which is really growing at a very rapid pace.
It really is. It's the gold rush. And on the AMD front, could you go a little bit deeper? I mean, you sort of touched on the ability to leverage the company's scale. Lisa Su has just done a phenomenal job as CEO. What were some of the other intrinsic things that were really attractive about being acquired by AMD?
So, I mean, if you looked at the portfolio of AMD even just 2 years ago, right, it was primarily leading at Charter in multiple segments, but particularly in the data center for servers, with
Mhm.
their CPU portfolio growing very, very fast in market share, both in the cloud and also in the enterprise, is the footprint was growing. At the same time, the company had started to make investments in GPUs. This is now I'm taking you back 2 years ago,
Right.
and was looking for the third leg of the stool, so to speak. So if you're a company that does in the data center has CPUs and GPUs, the third leg of the stool is the DPU, the data processing unit,
Right.
that really fills out the portfolio. And we fit that bill. We fit the bill because we had several common customers that were utilizing our technology alongside each other. We had a lot of uh, complementarity in terms of our offering, where we were looking at the networking space and the assets that we were bringing into the company more from a systems perspective, because ultimately your ability to execute on AI is how big of a system can you deliver, right? Both for
Mhm.
scale up and scale out networking. So it was a natural fit in terms of the value that we were bringing, the assets, the IP, and the customer base. So it was the perfect time for us to become part of AMD, because
Mhm.
that then allowed us the ability to have the runway to start to expand and take advantage of all facets of AMD. In the short term, it was supply chain. We had so much more demand and such less supply. And given AMD's phenomenal relationships in the industry, we were able to serve the needs of the customers that had high demand for the product over the last couple of years, almost like immediately.
Mhm.
We were able to handle it. We were also able to go grab customers on a global level. As a startup, you had finite ability to do that. And all the large cloud customers now jumped in with both their feet, wanting to work with us. Because as a startup, there was concern, what if another company acquires and it happens to be a competitor? So
Sure.
with AMD acquiring us and them having such strong relationships in the cloud space, we were able to go and win new customers as a result of being part of AMD. And finally, as I said, I mean, the company is so customer driven and all about innovation with execution excellence. Culturally, that which is the most important thing always, we were a natural fit in the
Yeah.
culture of the company, where we are customer obsessed. We are focused on execution, and we want to run on all cylinders on the AMD plus AMD, bringing those elements together, the best of both elements together, where we have the scale of an AMD and we move at startup speeds. So we have retained some of those elements now that we are the networking technology group here within AMD. And we continue to see tremendous opportunity to contribute and to grow with AMD.
Culture is so important. Before I became an analyst, I spent 30 years in corporate America, started my career at Dell, and I was at Compaq when Compaq was acquired by Hewlett Packard. And interesting culture meshing, went on there, and culture is so very important. And I can see that just spending time with you and your team and the broader AMD team as well. It's just been a great fit, and it's fantastic. When we've talked about DPUs and what they do, and I sort of talked about the notion of consolidating silicon. One of the biggest challenges right now when we're looking at generative AI and these next generation AI workloads is the concern around power consumption. And one of the things that I really believe that Pensando does well is power efficiency. And so can you spend a little bit of time there, what you're hearing from customers and how that sort of translates to the business outcomes that they want to realize?
So I think the DPU plays an important role because now we have the ability in very highly optimized form factors powered by the DPU to enable customers to retire infrastructure at an accelerated pace. Whether I look at the examples at Microsoft Azure, where we have given them the opportunity to deliver limitless networking and SDN, bringing the power of our DPUs with our entire software stack. And they are starting to take that into production at scale to Azure, both internal customers and external customers. They are seeing a dramatic reduction in infrastructure costs within Azure with the ability to accelerate the performance and the scale at which they can deliver limitless networking to their
Mm-hmm.
customers as a result of our DPUs going into production. That's one example. The other example is when we started to partner with HP Aruba now 3.5 years ago in bringing to market over the last 2 years, we've been shipping the smart switches with thousands of those smart switches into production. And some of our largest customers like DXC, which is a network solution provider, is delivering highly efficient services while retiring a lot of their appliances as they deliver through their smart switches called the CX10K line from Aruba HPE,
Mm-hmm.
and have standardized on this architecture. And they are going to be experiencing close to $65 million worth of savings as a result of retiring the old appliance infrastructure. And again, when you think about that level of consolidation, it ultimately makes room for you to bring in AI infrastructure, which is power hungry, which is so wanting to deliver to your AI age applications, but you need to make room in your data centers through consolidation and through refresh of new infrastructure that the DPU has enabled with smart switches. Those are just two examples, one in the cloud in one of the largest cloud customers, and the other is in the enterprise at a network solution provider, on how the DPU really is delivering the outcomes for power efficiency and optimization, allowing these customers to bring the new age AI-based workloads and GPU systems into their data centers.
DXC Technologies, I mean, it's a compelling proof point to the power of what Pensando is doing. I spoke with executives there as I was gathering information for the paper that AMD commissioned with my firm. And I was blown away because it was a massive data center consolidation project. And they point to Pensando as benefiting that journey and allowing them to achieve some of the statistics that you were quoting. It's quite impressive. And I've written a Forbes article, a couple of Forbes articles on the Aruba CX10,000 and their work with the Pensando team. But you sort of touched on this earlier. I'd like to go a little bit deeper. You talked about software as a competitive advantage. I mean, you compete with the likes of Intel and Marvell and NVIDIA. And from my perspective, I mean, those are great platforms, but they sort of leave the software to others, right? And Pensando just took a decidedly different approach to really focus on the software. And can you go into a little more detail about that and how you feel like you differentiated yourself in the market?
Sure. I think our full software stack is complementing our API libraries and our software development kits that we are also making available to cloud customers that have the appetite and are bringing their applications into P4 through the SDK platform, which is a very mature platform and in a much more power efficient way. The advanced networking functions is one example where we are running a full SDN stack supporting not only SDN, but also other services like load balancing across networks. I already touched upon the Microsoft Azure use case. When you combine that with our security capabilities that are spanning stateful firewall, stateful connection tracking, DDoS protection, security groupings, IPsec, and TLS-based encryptions, many of those features coexist alongside with the software-defined networking functions and libraries that we have made available. And cloud customers like Oracle Cloud are in production, taking advantage of both the power of SDN in P4 while running security as a first-class citizen. Then, of course, in my opinion, when you marry that with really robust observability support in the form of flow-based packet telemetry and stateful connection tracking, you now have the ability to keep tabs of what is the integrity of your connections and how secure are they. And you can do that in real time. And what you can see, you can secure. So they go hand in hand. It's a hand in glove type of a motion that we have the ability to have rich observability in real time running as part of the P4 program in parallel to the software-defined networking and software-defined security stacks. Now, this software is fully backward compatible, so it's extremely powerful. Now our customers can take what is running on the currently shipping 200 gig DPU and take that exact same software and run it on the 400 gig DPU. So now you can have a multi-generation architecture that can take all of that software forward and not have to rewrite a lot of the environments that they have had to go work within. So I think the software aspects really have been we have thought through this and have a very mature stack that we continue to evolve at a very accelerated pace, working hand in hand with our customers as they prioritize their requirements to go into production. And we take a lot of the enhancements on the platform side and we keep updating the SDK environments for those customers that want to bring their own software and do their own implementation of their assets into our P4 environment. So that way we are keeping both the platform very robust and rich, and we are starting to continuing to add a lot more software content, which we have been doing for the last 4 to 5 years, but we continue to evolve it with looking at the future roadmap of our silicon. We call it software in silicon, which rides on top of our silicon so that it's fully forward compatible.
I love the flexibility and allowing customers to bring their their own solutions as well as leverage your full stack. I often say that flexibility is a good thing for customers, meeting them where they are at. And I found it interesting you touched on observability, and as I've spent time with your team, I didn't really sort of think about what Pensando is doing from an observability standpoint, right? There's such a big focus on that right now when you look at like the mega merger or acquisition of Splunk by Cisco, and countless numbers of companies that are focused on observability to help provide de-risk type solutions and scenarios to enterprises of all sizes. But Soni, it's been a great conversation. I mean, any final thoughts before we wind up our conversation?
No, I think the network will continue to play a very important role in how the next wave of AI workloads become real, come to life, whether they are being consumed in the public cloud, whether they are being sovereign AI-based workloads, or whether they are going to be customers, enterprises, and tier 2 cloud providers getting ready for bringing AI workloads to life of the end users. I think the network is going to continue to play a very important role because your AI infrastructure is only as good as your ability to have a highly reliable, available, secure AI infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Where the network plays a role in both the scale up and the scale out capabilities. And there, I think programmability and the ability to accommodate for the changes that are going to happen in Ethernet, because Ethernet always wins, is
Right.
going to be an important aspect. So you're future-proofing your AI infrastructure with highly programmatic DPUs that are powering that network, and the ability then to add more enhancements onto Ethernet so that you are converging those networks, you're supporting multipathing, you're supporting packet spraying. That way, if one path were to fail, you're taking a different path for your applications to keep running, particularly your training applications, which could be running for days and months.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want a small glitch in the network, or a connector, or a link flap to be bringing that whole DPU, that whole GPU set of assets down. Those are the most expensive parts of your AI infrastructure. So we're putting a lot of thought, energy, and innovations into how we will continue to see Ethernet evolving with the Ultra Ethernet Consortium, and future-proofing that infrastructure with future software compatibility, and enhancing the standardization of these protocols through standards bodies and an ecosystem, a rich, robust ecosystem, is where all our attention is going into. And I'm looking forward to many, many more new products and new announcements that we'll be making in this space alongside with AMD and our ecosystem. So exciting times ahead.
Yeah, they really are, Sonny. And boy, Ethernet. I call Ethernet the Energizer Bunny. It's been around for almost 5 decades, right? And
Exactly.
it continues to be iterated from. And boy, recent announcements point to the fact that Ethernet can get the interconnect job done when it comes to these very power hungry, intensive AI workloads. But Sonny, thank you so much for your time. I want to let our viewers know that AMD did commission a paper with my firm, Moor Insights and Strategy. It's AMD Pensando Silicon that supercharges the modern data center. And you can find that on moorinsightsandstrategy.com. But with that, Sonny, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.